Hello, it's Margaret, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about 5 situations that can actually affect your income. So, these are situations that you would like to avoid, and it's actually more practical to look into this before buying or renting your home. So, it's likened to you signing a contract, right? Before you actually even sign a contract, you would actually like to consult a lawyer first before signing a legal document. Or you would also like, let's say, before taking any type of medication or surgery or something like that, you would like to actually ask a doctor, and maybe more than just one doctor. Similarly, this is the case with Feng Shui. Now, Feng Shui has 2 schools of thoughts, which are the form and formula Feng Shui. The form Feng Shui looks at the natural and man-made surroundings around the property, and from there, one can get a pretty good idea of whether the property has good Feng Shui or not. So for good generational Feng Shui benefits, you usually look at how good the landscape, the natural environment are around the property. But what about our homes? How do you tell if you're being affected by bad Feng Shui, and ultimately your well-being and income is affected? So there are some landforms that can tell you or clue you in if your house or building has good Feng Shui. These are there are some obvious landform features and even man-made features, and that you can actually see, and that can affect your ability to earn income. So it's really best to have a Feng Shui assessment before going off to buy or rent your next home, as some of these features, if you really think about it, are really difficult to resolve or fix. Okay, so let's get started with one of the key factors that actually will affect your income, which is the entry blockage, an entrance blockage. It will make it so difficult for chi energy to enter, blocking income from coming into your home. It will be like a piercing heart shot. That's how they call it in Feng Shui. So entrance govern your potential income. So long term, it actually can cause you to suffer, a big hit on your income. Okay, so another thing also, like if you're asking if wall is a blockage, wall doesn't really need to be, it's not considered a blockage, and it needs to be smaller than your door frame to be considered that. Now, what are some of the blockage that you can actually see right in front of your door? Okay, like something like this, a big tree, right in front of your door. Like when you run out, you can get hit by this object, this tree, let's say, or a pole, and something else. So try to remove that blockage or extend the blockage, then it becomes a wall. But then there's some difficulty in having a wall right in front of your front door as well. Okay, so here are some examples. Like, say you have something like this is the front wall, front entrance. So in between these 2 arrows, if there's nothing blocking it, then there's no problem. So there should not be anything that's really in between these 2 arrows here. Okay, outside of those 2 arrows, that's fine. Okay, now similarly, what's behind the main door when you enter your house is also very important. There should not be any blockage too. So again, as you can see here, when you come in from the outside, there should not be any blockage, and when you go, when from the outside, you should also not see any blockage in front of your home as well. Okay. Now, what's a secondary factor that could actually affect your income? It's about a small entryway, small opening space. So a main door facing a small opening will have difficulty in keeping the wealth or income inside your home. So it's going to be something called like a pulling nose effect. So it has a funneling effect on you. It's pulling qi away from your house. So it's difficult to keep the qi inside the house. The energy outside is pulling the qi out. So it's got this funneling effect going on. And small pathway going down is really bad as opposed to maybe coming up to you, okay? Now there's other, like this, similarly, like in this particular picture, you can also see that there's a small alleyway. Now, if your door is actually facing this small alleyway, then it's really, really something to be of concern of, because it's got that pulling qi effect from your house, okay? And let's say we're talking about another example like this. You will see that the door is actually facing this small alleyway, okay? So it's not as ideal to have this kind of feature. And what about if, I mentioned earlier, let's say if it was a condo. So if you're living in a condominium complex, building, so a main door facing a long hallway also has that effect, has that similar effect of a pulling nose. So it's like pulling qi away from your unit, from your particular home, you know. So if it's an apartment, then your unit is being affected by this. Now, if the hallway or alleyway or corridor is large enough and wide enough, then it's not really a problem. Okay, so as you can see here from the arrows, like if it's wide enough, you know, then it doesn't have that kind of effect. Okay, so what other factor or what other feature are we supposed to be looking out for? Because there's some of these guys are really difficult to actually remedy or fix. Now, third one that you have to be aware of is the proximity of flowing water to your property. So if you have a storm drain or flowing water right next to your property, then you have to be a little bit more careful. You have to be aware of how close this flowing water is to your property. Is it right next to your property? Okay, so some of these things that you have to consider is if it's right next to your property, and it must be really a huge area, and it must always be filled with water. Okay, now if that drain is dry, then it's not really a problem for you. But if it's wet and it's wide enough that even a bus can drive through it, then you know you will have this effect of sudden loss of wealth when activated. Especially, you know, like of course when there's water in it, as water carries qi. Okay, so this might be a common issue in some countries, let's say like Malaysia in the southeast, but not for some other countries. So it, you know, what this effect does, what this feature does, it just kind of causes a dramatic loss of money. Okay, so again, the storm drain or the body of water there, or that, you know, must be pretty big enough to cause that kind of effect. Now, if this storm drain or flowing water is in front of you, it's called the cutting feet water. Now, if on the side, then it's called the cutting shoulder water feature. Okay, so how do you know? Let's see. Okay, there's another example here. Okay, as you can see, there's water in this particular drain here. Now, the mountain is the source of qi. That's why we want the mountain at the back of our homes and water in the front, because water actually stops the qi from flowing, escaping away from the house. But it also works in reverse when you have no mountain in the back and the qi is in the front. But if you have water in the front before the mountain, which is the source of qi, then you have a problem as well, as you won't be able to receive the qi from the mountain. Okay, so the positioning of the mountain and the water feature or the water source is also pretty important. Now here is a water drain. Now, as you can see, it's pretty big, so it's very difficult to actually resolve this issue. I mean, the solution is actually to cover the storm drain if you have the money, but it's quite expensive. Okay, now how to gauge the nearness of that water source or the water feature, the water drain to your to your home or to your building. And the best way of gauging is, if, let's say, if you're living in a building apartment, is, let's say, if your building is near the water feature, and if your building collapse sideways, let's say, it will fall into the drain, then it's near. Yeah, then you know that your building or your home or your house is actually very near to the water drain. Okay, so for those living in apartment building, if the building collapses and ends up in the drain, then it's near. Okay, and again, the drain should have water, and it should be big enough and wide enough, but whether it's in the back, in the front, or it's in the side, it's just a difference of term of how we call it, but it still blocks chi. Okay, and because when the water flows, or when the rain comes and the water flows, the chi is being carried away by this water. Okay, so in effect, it's kind of also draining your potential for income, your wealth. Okay, again, if it's far from you, it's not as bad, it's not a problem, but it will still cut the chi or act as a wall to block the chi in some sort of way, So depending on the location, you have to remember, water cuts off the chi. It acts like a wall, so the chi does not escape, but it also cuts off chi from coming to you, depending on where it's located. Okay? Now, what other feature should you actually be aware of? Now, there's that other feature of size imbalance. Okay? What it does, it suppresses wealth or income. It snatches your opportunities of building assets, of accumulating wealth. So it causes a suppression problem, and opportunities are snatched away from you. Okay, so if you're, let's say, like in this slide, if you're living in that smaller building, then the bigger building is taking away your energy and the opportunity. You're being oppressed. Okay, so this kind of situation creates oppression problem. You find again that your opportunities are taken away from you, or you're losing out on a lot of these opportunities. There's really, like you're finding that you have very small chances of getting better results or something like that. Okay, so one big condo will have an issue. Let's say if you're talking about condos, one big condo will have an issue if confronted by several small buildings or condominiums. But sooner or later, as more condos are built, the smaller buildings will be overwhelmed. Okay, so what to watch out for is where the position of the condo is. If the condo is behind you, then it's not a problem, as it's supportive. Now, if you're confronted with the condo, then you have an issue. If you're squeezed in between two buildings, like similar to this photo, to this slide here, then you have an issue. And so let me show you a few more other. If you're, again, if you're just by yourself confronting several condo buildings, then of course you have an issue. So the chi energy cannot go in or out, or having, you will have your chi energy taken away from you, and that will cause an inability to create wealth, and eventually it might also cause some health issues. So towers such as these that you see are all fire energy, and fire energy can speed up things pretty fast. Okay, so the negative issues might occur pretty fast as well, right? So as you can see here, like as I mentioned earlier, when the big building is behind you, then it's likened to a big brother watching your back and supporting you. Now, if you're actually in this kind of situation, and if you're looking at this building and say, and you have no choice, you have to choose one unit from this building here, it's kind of like one big building with different rooftops, then which area would you choose? Definitely not the smaller areas, not the units that's found in the center of this particular building, okay? So not this particular, I'm sorry. Okay, where am I? So not this particular area, of course. You just try to avoid it. You might look at this, or you might look at somewhere here in this building. Okay, so that's one of the fourth feature that I was was mentioning. And then what else? Okay, the fifth feature that we have to be aware of is the clutter situation in a space. Okay, it takes away this. It takes away the space where energy can accumulate. Let's say let's say, for example, of a bright hall. So there's really no space for the chi energy to gather. And in this situation, like in this photo here, in this slide here, this is quite obvious. If there's already an object in the space, then chi is not going to be able to collect or go through the space. So please don't turn your house into a storeroom. And again, chi cannot collect and gather where there are objects that are already in those spots, in those places. This applies to both internal and external bright hall. Okay, this is more worse if it's in front and behind the bright hall. Okay, it should not really be cluttered. It's supposed to be open, big as possible. Again, if the clutter is actually it's actually in the front and behind the bright hall, some of you know already what the bright hall is all about, and then then it's actually really not great. Okay, so external bright hall, like look at this. This is the frontage of a house, and I think there's the entryway there. So this area here should not be all cluttered, okay, because it takes away the space where energies can actually go through and accumulate as well. Okay, so whether it's inside or outside the home, like this is the outside, external bright clutter should not be bright hall should not be cluttered, and the internal bright hall should also be uncluttered and unobstructed. Okay, again, do not turn your house into a storeroom, and this is should not really clutter any, and so the entryway should be as wide and as bright as possible. Okay, this is where in a wall, as I mentioned earlier, that if you don't have if you would like to turn some sort of blockage into a wall, wherein a wall will actually not be suitable as well, and it's not really going to be beneficial, because you want the bright hall to be wide and spacious. Okay, so a wall in front of your door, whether externally and internally, is not gonna help. Okay, so hopefully this short video can give you an idea of some of those landform features, as well as man-made features as well, and any the situations wherein if you have a Feng Shui practitioner coming in to assess your home, these are some of the features that they don't want to see. Okay, and likewise, these are also some of the features that actually is really difficult to actually fix or remedy. Okay, so like a drain, how can you fix that? Okay, like a lamppost, how can you fix that? You have to go through the cities, you have to and the only thing that could be remedied here is probably freeing up your clutter in the space. Okay, but so hopefully this 5 features that I mentioned here can can make you it can help you also when you're out there looking and to rent or to buy your next home. What kind of features or situations you should be avoiding, and to actually help you with your accumulation of wealth. Okay, that will not affect your ability to earn income. Okay, so I hope you like my video and you've enjoyed it, and please subscribe to my channel, like this video and subscribe to my channel for other notification of my future videos. Okay, thank you for watching.